Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my spoiler-free review for The Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School by Sonora Reyes. So this is a book that I finished a couple of hours ago at the time I'm filming this, and I have a lot of energy and my thoughts are very unorganized, but that energy does need to be released somewhere, and this is the choice I made. And before I get into the book description, I do just want to say that there will be a link to the content warnings for this book down in the description below, along with some resources. There's also an author's note in the front of the book, so please check those out if you're thinking about reading this. So with that, let's go ahead and get into the description. So this book follows our main character Yami, who is outed by her crush and ex-best friend at her previous school. Now at her new Catholic school, Yami has no intentions to come out or to fall in love. However, that is easier said than done, as the only openly queer girl at her new school is annoyingly perfect. But if word ends up getting back to her mom, Yami could face much worse than rejection. I want to start this video talking about our main character because that's what I typically do. She has to be one of my favorite characters that I've read so far this year. I got so invested in her personality and her journey. We'll talk about her journey later on in this video when we get to the story portion, but she really does go through some things in here, and the place where she ends up at by the end is so beautiful in terms of character growth, and it made me so happy. She also does have a super fun personality. Like, she made me laugh a lot, and I just really liked her. I also ended up getting pretty invested in her brother as well, more than I was expecting to. Like, I was expecting to like him, but not nearly as much as I did. And then I also just love their sibling relationship and dynamic with one another. I also do want to give a shout out to Bo because she was great as well, and I enjoyed her character quite a bit. This story has a lot of side characters that are super likable, and then it also does have characters that were definitely not. Which again, content warnings, because these characters are racist, they're homophobic, and then there's bullying and just etc. This is a story who even its most likable characters are imperfect and flawed throughout, and there are comments and things that get called out by the other characters in the book. Let's go ahead and move into the relationships. I already mentioned the sibling relationship, but I do think that it deserves to be mentioned again. There's fun banter, you can tell how much they care for one another. It was so heartwarming, and I just really appreciated it. As for the romance, there are some good pairings throughout this book, but for our main romance specifically, just super sweet. They have some really fun and cute moments with one another. I will say there were times where I did wish that I could see the romance from the love interest perspective, just so that I could have gotten a better understanding of their relationship pre-romance, but once the romance was there, I didn't care anymore. Like, maybe I still cared a little bit, but it was overshadowed by other things. I'm gonna use this to start talking about the story, but there are romance and like key getting together scenes that felt really celebratory, and I really feel like this story knows how to celebrate queerness. Like, these work for me. And I was smiling. There were times where I was like tearing up, and these were probably by far my favorite parts of the book. As for the story, it is very character based on our main character and her family. There's a huge focus and exploration about coming out, and specifically coming out into these spaces where it's unfortunately not accepted. And we really do see throughout the story how that impacts these characters. This story had my emotions all over the place. I felt a ton of things while reading this. And I mentioned this earlier when it comes to Yami's character growth, but where these characters end up and the growth that's there, and even the growth that's like still continuing by the time the book ends, it has some really beautiful moments. This story also has discussions about race, racism, and immigration. There are also mental health themes throughout, as well as other LGBT+ topics other than coming out. There's also discussions about religion and just how all of what I just said can impact and combine with one another. As for some other things that I really appreciated about this story, the pacing felt really amazing, and I do think that this really helped with just how attached that I got to this story, because I was able to really lose myself in it. I think I read this book in like 2 sittings, and I struggled so much to like stop in between those 2 sittings. There was a point during the first one where I was like, I might make it through this whole thing in one go, which definitely did not happen, but it was a thought that I had. Each chapter also starts off with some commandments, and a lot of those were really fun and good. And I also know that I'm probably forgetting things that I really liked about this book in this review, because so much did happen within the story, and I was very much just along for the ride. And all I can say about it at this point is that it felt like a quality book with only a couple things here and there, and by that that I mean like 2, that I didn't feel as though matched what this book wanted to say and actually did say. So those were there, and they did unfortunately take me out of it some, but I had no problems getting back into this even if they did stand out. Okay, ratings. Is this a 5-star? Yeah, why not? I think so. It's funny because every time that I've talked about this book prior to today, I've talked about how much this book has just taken up my mind, even with just its very existence. And I mentioned that I thought that feeling would be amplified once I actually read this book, and that is 100% the case. This is a story that not only met my expectations, but it had a lot of moments that really exceeded them. And it's definitely really carved itself out a special place in my heart. It's a story that feels important, and I am so glad that I read it. Okay, so that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that. And hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!